We're live. Microphone? Huh? Try? He's got it.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Dandava Pranams everyone. Thank you all for coming again. We're in the second evening of our 4-day Shri Akhanda Guru Tattva Festival. So thank you all for taking the time out. We're very, very appreciative. Tonight, in honor of Pujyapada Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj's Avirbhav Tithi Mahotsav, we have a couple extra speakers. And if you missed the morning, then you also missed some very sweet remembrances and pastimes. We also had a sighting of Srimati Vasanti Didi speaking a little bit this morning as well, which you missed out on, but it's recorded. So first speaker this evening will be Sri Rasik Mohan Prabhu. And we're very fortunate. I was very surprised out of the blue. I didn't actually even invite him because I was thinking he has such a big project, so many responsibilities. I don't want to waste his time and just get rejected. So, I didn't even invite him to come, but he said spontaneously he desired to be here. So we're very fortunate. If you don't know who he is, he's my dear godbrother and very senior to me. He's been completely and totally immersed in Gurudev's Seva since childhood, and spent better than a decade and a half in Vrindavan Dham serving, and he does so many amazing projects, most recently establishing Bhaktivinoda Dham in New York, where we have how many, 50 some odd acre property, and we have grand opening of the temple, including Seva Kunj deities there on Gaur Purnim time this year, so very excited for that. So he's going to come and give some Pushpanjali to Srila Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. Thank you.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. No, Maharaj, no. Hare Bol, stand. When Gurudev would call juniors, we'd have them stand. So by your permission, I'll stand. Instruct. Hare Krishna. Very honored to be present in this August assembly. So many of my seniors. Gurujan, Hare Krishna. Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadhanaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namo Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Seva kunje braje ramye govardhane giro sada radha kunde rasanande tattat seva pradayakam gurum narayanakyam tam vande vinoda pristakam yat pada smriti matra namo dhara prasidati aho bhagyam Nanda Gopa Brajokasam Yanitrang Paramanandam Purnang Brahma Sanatanam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhura Smitasya Vadami Radham Karuna Baradram Tato Mamanya Stigatirna Papi Tavevasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Devitam Nayam Charanantike Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bol Shri Guruji Maharaj ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samasta Rupanuga Gauri Guru Varga ki jai, Gaur Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Ramanju ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. First, I offer my sastang dandavat pranam to my most beloved Guru Pada Padma, Param Aratitam, Guru Pada Padma, Om Vishnu Pad, Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta, Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Gurudev. And to have been a Guru Pada Padma, Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj, Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, to present Tridandi Sannyasi Gan, to respected Shramrani Mataji, Priyajan Prabhuji, please accept my Dandavat Pranams. To all assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, please accept my Dandavat Pranams. By Nrsinga Prabhu's request, he asked me to speak a few remembrances of Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. I was very fortunate to meet him when I was 9 years old. And since then, he captured my heart by his presence, along with my beloved Shri Gurudev, who I had also had the fortunate meeting a few months earlier in New Braj, 96. I grew up in New Braj, California, Badger, known at that time. Beautiful community, like we're seeing here, develop, hundreds of devotees. And so I owe so much gratitude, boundless appreciation to the effort of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and his Krishna conscious movement, without whom my parents, myself, and so many of us would not be having this chance at this time to be in the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As we heard last night, the importance of hearing from the sadhu. So when I was 9 years old, Srila Gurudev, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj came to New Braj with a tidal wave of divine love. Tonight we're continuing the discussion of Akhanda Guru Tattva. So our Guru Pad Padma is a manifestation of that Akhanda Guru Tattva, the root of whom is Lord Nityananda. And in the glories of Lord Nityananda it is said, Abhara Kuruna Sindhu Katya Mohan, Gare Gare Bule Prem Amiyaravan. Lord Nityananda, through his manifestations, Guru Pada Padma, like many rivers coming from the same source, they travel throughout the whole world, spreading the waves of transcendental love. Srila Gurudev thus came to New Braj and engulfed that community with prem. The idea of what does it mean? What is the real goal of life? We can hear about it, but what is the speciality of the sadhu? Especially the Uttam Mahabhagavat. Simply by their presence, everyone is inspired to chant the names of Sri Krishna with love. Simply by their presence, by their harikatha, by the slightest tula matra, this momentary association. Lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy. We're hearing very nicely from Srimad Bhagavad Maharaj the importance of sadhu sangha. A momentary association with such personalities gives you all perfection. It is described in our Sastra that living entities are wandering throughout material existence since time immemorial. By great fortune, they meet with a sadhu, by Krishna's mercy, and by their accumulated sukriti. And at that time, it is described that they are coming to the shore. They're in the ocean of samsara, but very quickly now they're coming to the shore of the spiritual realm. So this is the mercy of Sri Guru. So Srila Gurudev came to our community and swept up that community, and wherever he traveled, all different groups of devotees were caught up in that flow of his transcendental love, his mercy, and very quickly came to Brajadam for Kartik Parikrama. So I came with my father there. We went with Srila Gurudev from New Braj to San Francisco. In Kartik, we got to get an introduction to the family of the Gaudiyas. And from that time, by the presence of so many great personalities like Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj, we could understand or start to understand the broadness of Guru Tattva and the importance of Guru Tattva and Vaishnava Tattva. So in speaking about Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj, I want to remember this idea that what is Shiksha Guru and the importance of Shiksha Guru in the conversation of Akhanda Guru Tattva. Shiksha Guru means the instructing spiritual master, the teacher, who is very merciful and is described to be the Swarup of Krishna. Shiksha Guru ke tajani Krishna ra Swarup antaryami bhakta shrestha edviru. Shiksha Guru is described to be Bhakta Shrestha, the topmost devotee, and the Swarup, or the mood and the personality of Sri Krishna. Diksha Guru ke tajani Krishna ra Roop. Krishna's Roop. This is Diksha Guru, and Shiksha Guru is Krishna's Swarup. So they must have such a deep connection to be Krishna's Roop and Swarup as described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So therefore, Srila Trivikram Goswami Maharaj, he epitomized this mood of being completely nirapeksha, completely devoid of self-interest, and being the most magnanimous, loving guardian to all devotees, regardless of where they've come from, where's their background, who is their Diksha Guru or not. He was like a loving mother, and also like a strong father. We hear in Sastra, Vajradapi Kathorani Mriduna Kusumadapi. Sadhu is strong like a thunderbolt and soft like a lotus. And we saw that in his character. In his heart, he is so soft and sweet. But externally, for those who couldn't understand, he was very strong. That strength, that strong energy is necessary for the development of the sadhaka. He was like an infant. I remember when I was that first year, my father received Diksha initiation, I received Harinam. And we met with Sri Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. He was giving medicine. He was always taking care and giving medicine to the devotees. He was like the best uncle you could ever imagine. And like a grandfather. So sweet, so gentle. So one time, as it is common when you first go to India, you get some kind of health issue. I remember we went to him for some kind of bad stomach. And he gave medicine, and he looked at my father, "Who is this?" My father said, "This is my son." He says, "No, he is not. He is our son." It was very sweet. And my father said, "Yes, yes, he is yours." In many lives, we get many mothers and fathers. But when we achieve the shelter of a Mahabhagavat, who takes us from material existence and brings us to the shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, that is our true mother, our true father. This is Akhanda Guru Tattva. So since that time, he was always so affectionate to me. When I would come, 9, 10, 11, every year I was coming, and he would always be very affectionate. Srila Gurudev instructed me since that time, when I received Diksha in 1997 at that time. But he said, "I want you to be brahmachari and serve my mission." So every time I would meet him, he would instruct me like this. And I remember all these festivals we would have, Kartik, Brajmandal Parikrama, Navadvip, especially New Braj. I remember seeing all our respected sannyasis, Prem Priyojan Prabhu, and idolizing these great preachers, how they're serving our Guru Pada Padma. And so much respect and admiration was there and is always there. So Trivikram Goswami Maharaj, he was so sweet, but he was completely nirapeksha. And this is why Srila Gurudev, he chose such days to disappear and to appear as those days of his god brothers to show the importance of Shiksha Guru within the understanding of Akhanda Guru Tattva. Because in general, the nature of things is that whoever is like your father, direct, Diksha Guru, that gets the most respect, as is proper. We should understand in spiritual life, Diksha Guru is like father. Without father, we don't take birth. So therefore, it's of paramount importance. But similarly is the importance of the mother. Generally in society, we see mothers very humble, taking the backseat role. Spiritual life, sometimes Shiksha Guru is described to be like mother. Very humble in the background. Sri Vikram Goswami Maharaj said, I wish to die alone, unseen and unheard. This was his mood of humility. He was so humble. But yet he was so powerful and so important in the lives of so many. And when we consider the topic of Shiksha Guru, we can see here as well, so many of our seniors, we're glorifying our Shiksha Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I am thinking, okay, he's my Gurudev. But he is also the Shiksha Gurudev for most of our most senior Vaishnavas present. And so that's so important to understand that. If we see in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the dual importance of Diksha and Shiksha is very prominent. Srila Rupa Goswami says, Krishna Dikshadi Shikshana, as the first limbs of the 64 Angas, limbs of Bhakti. You must take Krishna Diksha and Krishna Shiksha. Without Diksha, you are not considered a proper Vaishnava. Sampradaya vihina ye mantras te nishvala mata. If you don't take mantra from a proper Vaishnava Sampradaya, from proper Guru, you're not considered real Vaishnava. I remember my mother asked Shri Gurudev this question, who is a Vaishnava? Gurudev said, Grihita Vishnu Dikshako Vishnu Puja Paro Naro Vaishnavo Bihito Vidyarito Smad Vaishnava. Our Sampradaya will stop if this continuation of the Diksha line stops. This is of utmost importance. However, there is similar importance to the role of Shiksha Guru in the life of the sadhaka. That Shiksha Guru may be Diksha Guru and may also be another personality. We hear this in the teachings of our Guru Varga. And we're seeing that in the life of our Srila Gurudev when he came and preached in the West. He would always glorify first Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Diksha Gurudev, and Shishmat Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Shiksha Gurudev. And if we look at our Sampradaya, who is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He is the Guru of the entire Sampradaya. But he is Shiksha Guru. Ultimately, it is Akhanda. And we'll hear, and we've heard much about this. You cannot make division. Why? Because ultimately everyone is coming from Sri Baladev, Lord Nityananda. All the glory is to them. Without Gaur-Nitai, where are we? Heno Nitai Vine Bhai, Radha Krishna Paitinai, Drida Kori Dharu Nitai Bhai. Strongly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. So this is an understanding that's very important. It's described, Jare Deko Tare Kaho Krishna Upadesh, Amara Gyai Guru Hoi Tare Desh. Mahaprabhu instructed about the need for those people to become educated in Krishna Bhakti and to distribute this message of Krishna consciousness. Because what is his prediction? Prithiviti Achi Jata Nagaradi Gram Sarvatra Prachar Hoive Moranam. In every town and village, this movement will spread. Krishna consciousness will spread. The names of Gaur-Nitai will be sung. Mahamantra, Kirtan will be spread. In order to accomplish this great task, we see in the Mayapur talks of Srila Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, he said, I want thousands of gurus. And he very quickly empowered many of his followers and disciples to take up responsibility, to help others. So for us too, there's a vision of what does it mean to continue on this Gaudiya Sampradaya with harmony. We talk a lot about harmony between different groups and different religions. Yet a house divided cannot stand. So there must be some measure of internal harmony for us to broadcast harmony with all faiths and all people of goodwill. And therefore we must learn to honor all Vaishnavas. According to their qualification, we honor all. And we try to develop humility, myself speaking personally. Trying to develop humility and learning to honor and see the good in all others. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Jivana nirvahe ane udvega nadivo, para upakara nija sukha pashavivo. While living our life, we should endeavor not to cause anxiety to anyone. We should be a well-wisher of all, be a benefactor to all, and in this way we should forsake our own sense of happiness. Dhanya doya anyaman pratishta varjan chari guni guni hao kuraho kirtan. In this way we can perform kirtan with humility, respecting others, compassion towards others. And then we can spread the holy names and serve our Guru Parampara. And then we can understand how is Guru Tattva Akhanda. And we can always help our disciples and our followers progress in Krishna consciousness, developing more and more deeper and deeper faith in the Guru Varga, understanding their position. Srila Srivakam Goswami Maharaj was so humble. I remember one time, Navri Parikrama, it was time for class. Where is Srivakam Maharaj? Where is Srivakam Maharaj? No one could find him. Finally, someone was going to the bathroom, as is not natural in Navadvip. They saw in the latrines he was there cleaning the bathrooms alone. Hundreds of bathrooms in those states, you know, like a outhouse. He was cleaning every bathroom, so much deep humility. So we remember him and we pray to him for his shelter and his mercy. He was so powerful and so strong, but he's so present. Srila Gurudev had so much love for him. Even though he was, by age, senior. When he would come to Mathura, when Gurudev was not present, he would offer sastang pranam and take his shoes on his head. And Gurudev would do likewise. And they had so many loving exchanges we'll hear about. I don't want to take too much time. But I'm trying to, you know, meditate on this and try to become a good son, please my parents, serve them, honor them, understand the importance of all our Guru Varga, our Guru Jan, Shiksha Guru, Bhajan Guru, Vardhma Pradarshika Guru, Diksha Guru. Srila Bhanu Goswami Maharaj, when he was in school, Bhaktivinoda Institute, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada came and examined them. Who is your Guru Maharaj? First he praised his teacher in the school. Then he praised his Guru Maharaj. We should understand in our spiritual family how to respect all others. And then if we develop this mood, then we will not see differences. Swami Prabhupada said, I've developed a house the whole world can live in. So in that house, there's naturally many rooms. Even in a small house, you have many rooms. So in a house the whole world can fit in, there must be thousands of rooms. Means branches of the Chaitanya tree. But we are all in one house, one family. Family of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Jai, thank you so much, Prabhu. So next we're going to call on Sripad Bhagavad Maharaj. And then we'll continue from there with Srimati Shamrani Didi, Sripad Vaikanas Maharaj, and then Sri Prem Brodrabu. So keep your seat belts buckled. We're in for a ride.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshura Militanyena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manavistam Stabhidanyena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Karamaya Dadanti Swapadantikam. First of all, I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Diksha and Shiksha Guru, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Sata Sri Sima Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Sannyas Guru, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Asatara Sata Sri Sima Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Then I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my two Shiksha Gurus, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Sata Sri Sima Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Dev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I offer my humble obeisances to the feet of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who have come to attend this program and who are present here today, headed by the Sannyasi Gang, Srila Vaikamas Maharaj, and Srimati Shamarani Didi, and Sri Prem Prayojan. And I want to thank Rasik Mohan for his beautiful speeches today. I am so inspired by seeing young men like him and Narasimha leading the way to the preaching in the next generation. So, there was a letter written by Srimati Shamarani Didi to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada responded to her letter. The response was in, I think it was September 1972. And in the letter, Srila Prabhupada responds by saying, so you have asked about first and second initiation, which is the real initiation. He said the first initiation is to prepare the disciple. And the second initiation is the real initiation, the full initiation. He said, I met my Guru Maharaj, in this letter he says, I met my Guru Maharaj in 1921, 22, I think it was. And at that time, he asked me that you are an educated man in English language. You should preach the mission of Mahaprabhu in the West. He said, from that time, when I heard, he used these words, when I heard my Guru Maharaj, from that time when I heard my Guru Maharaj speak to me and instruct me, that is when our connection began. The connection begins how? By hearing. The connection began by hearing. So that's a very important letter, because Srila Prabhupada establishes what he establishes throughout his books. One should remember these things. Sometimes people will quote letters or conversations. Like one time I remember talking with Prem Prayojan Prabhu about Ritviks talking about some conversation which Srila Prabhupada told a guest in the audience that yes, when you chant Hare Krishna, you should just hear the sound vibration. This was in 1966, 67, very early days. This was a guest, a new person, he had just come. So they were taking that out of context. This means everything. That's all. Just listen to the sound, that's all. You don't have to think about anything. Completely ignoring the instructions which he has given in lectures and which he has given in his books about Nam, Rupa, Guna, Lila, and understanding that there's listening to the sound vibration, and then there's also the meditation on the form of Krishna and the qualities of Krishna and the pastimes of Krishna while reciting the Maha Mantra. So it is important, if you're going to follow the instructions of Guru, to not cherry pick something here and there from a letter or a conversation or room conversation or something like that. Srila Prabhupada used to say, my books are the law books for the next 10,000 years. What's in the book, you can know for sure. This is the law. And if what's in the book is not different from what's in the letter, then you know that the letter is not a time, place, and circumstance letter. I'm trying to help you understand these are things that we don't think of in the peripheral relationship that we're having with Gurudev, with our Guru. And you should be very clear, because Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya. He's the one who established Mahaprabhu's mission in the Western world. His teachings and his instructions will be the foundation. Upon the foundation that he has laid, Srila Gurudev came. Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj came. Srila Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj came. Srila Bhakti Bibhulan Bodhayan Maharaj came. So many great personalities came to the Western world to preach the mission of Mahaprabhu on the foundation that was laid by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And therefore, this foundation should be understood. We should understand how the foundation is constructed. It is constructed in the book. Srila Prabhupada one time wrote a letter to Krishna Das, who was one of the original 12 GBCs. In that letter, he told Krishna Das he was a big scientist. So he wrote to Prabhupada, he said, what is this nonsense about Rahu? Rahu's coming and swallowing the moon and all these things. I'm a scientist, I know that what is happening is that the moon is on one side and the earth is in the middle and the sun is on the other, and this is how the eclipse comes. So Prabhupada wrote to him, yes, sometimes in Srimad Bhagavatam there's allegory. To appease him, he wrote them. So, at that time, when he was writing these letters, Shamasundar, he was the secretary of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to train the GBCs to understand how he was managing the movement so they could gradually take over the management of the organization and he could just concentrate on writing the books. So, Shamasundar was sending out copies of all the letters to the 12 GBCs. And I was Brahmananda Swami's assistant, so he would get the letters and I would also read them. So, every GBC had an assistant, and so
Not very secure.
So I was reading all these letters. Oh, look at this, look at this. So what happened is, one of the assistants of one of the GBCs wrote to Prabhupada and said, I thought you said there's no allegory in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Why did I read this letter that you're saying to Krishna Das that sometimes in the Bhagavatam there's allegory? So, Srila Prabhupada asked Shamasundar, how does he know this? How does this person know what I have written to Krishna Das? I wrote this to Krishna Das because he's a big scientist and I'm trying to appease him for the time being. And later, when I will go and sit with him in person, I will try to help him understand that Rahu is an actual personality and that he has a pastime of swallowing the moon. But now, in letter, I cannot describe all these things. So I will talk to him in person. It will have more benefit that way. Again, showing that hearing from the lips of the sadhu is where the potency lies. So then Srila Prabhupada stopped Shamasundar from sending the letters everywhere. But the point was that if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam of the pastime of Rahu swallowing the moon, you will understand that Prabhupada very clearly states in the purports that Rahu is a real personality. If we say Rahu is not real, then does that mean Mohini Swarup is also not real? Then if Mohini Swarupa is not real, is Krishna not real? Where does the allegory end? You understand? You're buying the whole product. You're not taking out one chapter here or one chapter there. You're taking the whole thing. The whole thing has to be accepted. There's a story even about this. That one man, he did not agree with some of the things that were in the Bhagavatam, so he was scratching them out with a pen. One preacher. So Krishna appeared to him and he had all these scratches on his face. And the preacher said, what is this? Why do you have this scratch? He said, you're making the scratches on my face. You're scratching out my face. Try to understand that the whole thing is to be digested. The whole thing is to be accepted. The entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's the law book. And that's the truth. And that's what we base our teachings and preachings on. That's what we base our faith on. That's what we follow. It is not simply that we will pick out some distant conversation here or there that has no relevance to what is being presented in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and all the books that Srila Prabhupada has written. That would be inaccurate. So, we must understand these things. And in the book, Srila Prabhupada is very clear. In the first canto, first chapter, 6th verse, in the purport. Here he's describing what an acharya is. Who is the acharya? He's talking about Sutta Goswami. How Sutta Goswami's character is absolutely spotless. That there is no commission of any material sinful activities like eating meat or drinking alcohol or performing, having illicit relations or any of these things. None of this is possible. Sutta Goswami is above and beyond all of these mundane, sinful activities. He's not touched by them at all. Prabhupada is bringing this out because in India there is often reciters of Srimad Bhagavatam who have some negative behavior in their life in which they don't follow the principles. There's the story of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji once in Navadvip. Some man came and recited Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days. Then he left. Then Gaur Kishore Das Babaji came with mounds of cow dung. And he told his associates, we have to spread the cow dung everywhere and purify this place. So they said, but Babaji Maharaj, someone just recited Srimad Bhagavatam here for 7 days. Isn't it purified? He said, did you hear Srimad Bhagavatam? I didn't hear Srimad Bhagavatam. I heard money, money, money. Try to understand. So Prabhupada is telling us in this first canto, first chapter, 6th verse in the purport, what is the spotless character of the sadhu who is going to sit on the Vyasasana and speak. All these faults cannot be there. That is one thing. Then another thing, that they should have studied all of the Vedic literatures. They should have studied all of the Vedic literatures very carefully, the Vedas, Vedangas, Puranas, Itihasas. Do you know what is the difference between Purana and Itihasa?
No.
The Purana, there's 18 Puranas which are histories. And these histories are done not in a sequential manner. The Itihasas are sequential, means Ramayana and Mahabharata. The story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it goes sequentially. But in the Puranas, there are a variety of stories presented one after another from different time periods, different yugas, different days of Brahma, in order to get across a philosophical point or conception. And so it has a whole different sequence. They're both histories, but they're very different histories. And one has to know all of these things. All of these things. And then he makes a very important statement in the purport. To hear and explain the revealed scriptures is more important than reading them. One can assimilate the knowledge of the revealed scriptures only by hearing and explaining. These two sentences he writes. Very important. You're finding it there?
No, I was looking
Oh, okay.
at, I don't have the right files.
Oh, So, we see Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing this point. He's emphasizing this point. This is a very important point by Srila Prabhupada. Hearing and explaining. When you hear something, you are sitting here. Many of you are the disciples of Sri Prem Prayojan Prabhu. Your Guru is speaking. And you are making notes. But that's not the end. Making a note is not enough. You have to share what you have heard with someone else. You have to explain. I asked Srila Prabhupada in Africa, because I had lived in America. I was working in America as a devotee, a brahmachari, preaching at the university and everything. So for 2 years I did that, then I went to Africa. So now I was in Africa and I thought, this is a very different culture, different people, everything is different here. So I asked Srila Prabhupada one day, Prabhupada, how do I preach in Africa? This is a new culture, a new country, a new experience for me. How do I preach it? So he looked at me right in the eye, very directly, and he said, the way to preach here in Africa and everywhere is the same. You read something from my books, and then you explain in your own words according to your realization. This is the process. Read something from my books and explain in your own words according to your realization. He wanted me to be able to preach. Once in India, he was asking the different devotees to stand up and speak. And so one of my godbrothers got up and by memory, he was reciting the verse and then the purport and all that, and Prabhupada said, stop. Because Prabhupada could tell what he was doing. I don't want to hear your memory. I want that you should speak according, in your own words, what you have realized from reading these books. I'm going to tell you a very important story. Not that memory isn't valuable, but memory is not everything. I had a godbrother. He was obviously practicing as a devotee in a previous life, and he was born in a very wealthy and influential family in America. His mother was an editor and co-publisher of Vogue magazine, which is the be-all and end-all of women's magazines. And back in the 70s, magazines were the internet. That was what you had. And his father was the managing director and publisher of Playboy magazine. So both parents were huge, influential people in the media world. Very wealthy, very powerful. He grew up in a big mansion, half a dozen cars, servants, everything. So he became attracted to Krishna consciousness because from previous birth he must have had these samskars. And he came and he studied the books. He was a ravenous reader of the books. And he became very quickly, he learned everything very quickly. So he went to his father one day, he said, I read in the one book by my Guru Maharaj that we should go to Vrindavan and live in Vrindavan. The book means nectar of devotion. So, his father, okay, you know, the Beatles are going to see the Guru, you want to go see your Guru in Vrindavan, I'll buy you tickets. He bought him a ticket and he went to see Prabhupada. So, in those days, not everyone could get in the room and see Srila Prabhupada. You had to have some weight to your service or something of that, or some introduction. So this boy, young brahmachari, he wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada, so he kept asking the president of Vrindavan, Dhananjaya Prabhu, you please bring me in to see Prabhupada. I want to meet with Prabhupada. So he said, okay, I will arrange that you can meet Prabhupada. He said, please tell him when you introduce me that I have memorized all 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit and English. Please tell him that I've done that. So Dhananjaya said, okay, I'll tell him. So he brings him in the room finally. He introduces him, this brahmachari, he has come from Chicago, all this stuff. And Srila Prabhupada, he has memorized all 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit and English. So you could tell, in order to do that, as a young man, first coming to Krishna, means he was doing this previously. He was bringing the samskars with him, the impression. So, Srila Prabhupada looked at me and said, that's nice. He said, you can go to the kitchen and you can wash some pots. You can do some service. And this reminded me of a story about a very big Brahmin who went to Sri Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and asked to live in the mutt, and telling Saraswati Thakur, I can do so many services, I can do kirtan, I can play bhajan with 4 different instruments, and I can give lectures on Bhagavatam, and I can do this, and I can do that. And Srila Saraswati Thakur said, I have no need for any of this, but I need someone in the kitchen to wash the pots. So basically, Prabhupada was instructing this disciple the way his Guru Maharaj instructed this Brahmin. Okay. So, of course, he was emotionally a little disappointed in the response. He was staying there in Vrindavan. Now, his parents, in order to protect him, because they were so wealthy, they had this huge insurance policy that if for some reason the 2 of them were to die at the same time, he would inherit not only the mansion and the millions of dollars and everything that they already had, but he would get millions and millions of more dollars, so that he would be protected for life. So while he was in Vrindavan one day, the 2 of them had to go, she had to go to Los Angeles for some modeling things with Vogue, and he had to go to LA because they were establishing the Playboy mansion in Los Angeles, and so they flew together to Los Angeles. On the way to Los Angeles, the plane crashed and they both died. So the lawyer contacted the boy in Vrindavan. He called the embassy. The embassy came to Vrindavan with so-and-so here, and they informed him, your mother and father have died in a plane crash. You've inherited the mansion and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and all the vehicles and everything, and you have to go home and do all this paperwork. He was the only child. So he got on the plane, he went back to America, we never saw him again. 700 verses in Sanskrit and English were memorized by this man. He was obviously bringing so much Sukriti with him from a previous life. But Maya just captured him in a second. Just like that. But try to understand, memorization is not sufficient. There has to be realization. There has to be realization. That's why Prabhupada told me, I want you to read from my book and then explain according to your realization in your own words. That means you own it. Hearing and explaining the revealed scriptures is more important than reading them. One can assimilate the knowledge of the revealed scriptures only by hearing and explaining. This word assimilation is very important. One of the definitions of the word assimilation is to transform food into living tissue. Transform food into living tissue. So, assimilating this knowledge, this Srila Prabhupada used this word assimilation in his address in Bombay in 1936 when he gave his Vyasa Puj offering to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Gentlemen, we are gathered here today. Very famous, remember that? Well, we may have been there. So in that, he talks about, today we have the opportunity to assimilate this transcendental knowledge from the lotus lips of our Guru Maharaj by glorifying him and offering him service. So here we see that assimilation happens, realization happens when we explain the knowledge of the revealed scriptures to other persons through the blessings of our Guru. When the Guru blesses you, then your words have tremendous potency. So much potency. And how will the Guru bless you? Srila Prabhupada told again and again and again, my only qualification is I have repeated what my Guru Maharaj has told me without changing anything. This is the key. Gurudev is speaking, he is giving you instruction, we don't change it. This is parampara. It's not telephone. You know, we don't pass it along however we think it might be. We pass it along purely. We don't change anything. It doesn't mean that you speak by memory. It means that the conclusion is the same in the end. That what you're saying is not changed. Hare Krishna. Please arrange seats for this guest. Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. So, this is very important to understand. I wanted to impress this upon you. About establishing the relationship with the Guru. How? Through sound. My relationship with my Guru began when I first heard his instruction. And that we should understand that the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada is giving us in his books are the last truth, the final authority, We do not manufacture anything independently. We teach according to what Srila Prabhupada is giving us in his books, what Srila Gurudev is giving in his books. We read those books, we study the books, we understand the books, and then we explain in our own words according to our realization. And this is how we explain. We hear and we explain. And when you explain, you own it. Then it becomes yours. Not just by taking notes, but by explaining. Because you're sharing the realization of the Parampara with others. That is the service. And by that service, you become blessed. Hare Krishna Raghunath Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dhanavad. Two brothers. Please give them, you need seats, give them seats. Make sure they get seats. Floor, okay. Your brother needs a seat. Let him know.
Thank you.
Okay. So, please try to remember these few things which I told. Hearing and explaining. And this is how we assimilate. And assimilation, that explanation, that definition, turning food into living tissue. The transcendental knowledge emanating from the lotus lips of the sadhu is transcendental food. It is prasad. And that prasad, when digested properly, will dissolve the subtle body and allow you, the soul, to manifest your original spiritual form. Hence, the food will be transformed into living tissue, spiritual tissue, transcendental. How Prabhupada chose these words so carefully. Deep, deep meanings. We should understand. We should understand. So these are a few things I wanted to share with you today about hearing, about preaching, about the connection with the gurus through the process of hearing, and the authority of Srila Prabhupada's books, and why they are the final authority in giving this knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaya. Please arrange a chair for Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I stayed in her house. She took care of me like a son. Thank you so much. You're comfortable there? You don't need a chair? Okay. Oh. Oh. All right, now we get the opportunity to hear from our dear God sister, my dear God sister, a very special devotee who was very favored by Srila Prabhupada. He gave her so much mercy and so much blessing. My God sister, Srimati Shamarani Didi.
Jai.
Jai.
Please attentively hear the transcendental words which she is going to speak today. Where is the microphone for her?
Exactly how I need it.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaya Krishnaya Krishnaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namah Yam Pravajantamanupetamape Krityam Dvaipayano Virahaka Najivami tam vina iti vidyaya radhe tam nayamam charanantike. First I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Astotra Sat Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shiksha Gurudevs, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Astotra Sat Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, to our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, to all of his divine associates, especially today, to Srila Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. Today, this morning, you've heard, and this evening also by Rasik Mohan Prabhu, you've heard many beautiful jewel-like tattvas about Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. And you also heard this morning from all of the speakers. So I just want to express the importance of that. Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj explained that once Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who is the Shiksha Guru of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he went to his house, and Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was there as a youth. And Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj told him that you are a master of astronomy. So my request is that you make a panjika, a calendar of all the appearance and disappearance days of the Lord and other holy days like Ekadasi, and also the appearance and disappearance days of the pure Vaishnavas, which he did, and which we have here on the bookshelf, book table if anybody would like. Because, as Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj asserted, if we remember, glorify, even remembering the name of such pure devotees, then by their mercy, all obstacles in our devotional path and in our life disappears, and all auspiciousness comes. Conversely, if we fail to do so, then obstacles come and auspiciousness goes away. In my life, it's made a difference between day and night, life and death, when I began doing that. Srila Bharati Maharaj mentioned three verses from Manushiksha by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami about the importance, the benefit, the significance, and the urgency of remembering these pure devotees. In verse 3, beginning, Yadi Cheravasham Rajabhuvi Saragam Pratijanor, he says, O mind, if you are eager to reside in Braj, in the transcendental abode of the Lord, far beyond the purview of all material universes, and if you want to be filled with Ragatmika Bhakti as an associate of the Lord, and if you desire the direct service of the youthful divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, then listen to me, O mind. Birth after birth, always distinctly bow down and remember with great love, Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami, these are personal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, to his elder brother Sri Sanatana Goswami, and to all other associates of the Lord who are recipients of his mercy. So if we want that highest devotion, then this is the way. And we all had that good fortune today. Then in verse 5, beginning, Hare Cheta Prudyat Kapita Kutinati Barakara. O mind, why are you bathing? Not found. It's in the next one. Wait, 5. That was 6. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Atach Cheta Kasta Pradavikata Pasha Lidiriha. Lust, anger, and so on. The band of dacoits on the open road of material life have bound my neck licentiously with the torturous, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds, and are thus killing me. O mind, speaking in this way, you must grievously cry out to the powerful and merciful protectors of the path leading to Sri Krishna, the killer of Bakasura. Hearing your piteous cry, they will surely protect you. So as mentioned last night, being anartha-grasta, or swallowed by our anarthas, unwanted habits and thoughts of lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, and envy, we don't have the power to get ourselves out of it. But by praying to these pure devotees, and then about my predicament, what is that? Lust, anger, greed, and so on are a band of dacoits on the open road of material life. They have bound me by the neck licentiously with the torturous and wicked ropes, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds. So praying like that, like today we have the opportunity, tomorrow we have the opportunity, every day we have the opportunity. Hearing your piteous cry, and they can hear, because they're everywhere at all times. They shall surely protect you. And then, interesting, verse 7, Pratista sajista sopacharamani me pridinate. O mind, as long as the shameless, outcast woman of the desire for prestige is dancing in my heart, I am the center. I want to be known. I want to be loved more than anybody, respected. How can pure transcendental praying touch my heart? Always serve the dear devotees of the Lord, who are the immeasurably powerful commanders of his army. They will at once banish that outcast woman of the desire for prestige and initiate the flow of pure praying in my heart. So everybody spoke so nicely about his glories. You heard how Srila Gurudev said on the 15th day of the celebration of Kartik month that we passed all these days on our parikrama so happily, but now there's very sad news. In the scriptures, it's stated that of all sufferings, the worst sufferings is separation from the pure devotees. So my dear godbrother, Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj has left, and he told me ahead of time, I don't want to interfere with your beautiful parikrama schedule. So after the Anukut ceremony, after the worship of Giriraj, then I'll leave. And so Srila Gurudev was lovingly remembering him, how My Guru Maharaj never rebuked me, but he rebuked me, but very lovingly. And we used to love each other and argue with each other. And my Guru Maharaj took my side. He was so kind to me. And one time I forgot to bring the slide projector because my Gurudev was showing slides as part of his philosophy presentation around in different villages, and I forgot the slide projector. So he saved me that night. He said, oh, it's probably going to rain, Gurudev. Why don't we just go on with the lecture? He said, even though he was so senior to me, as Rasik Mohan Prabhu beautifully mentioned, Gurudev said, even when I wasn't there, he would offer full obeisances with all of his limbs to my shoes and put it on his head. He taught me how to preach. He taught me how to do kirtan. He taught me how to collect money here and there for the mission. So I'm so indebted to him. And now he has an eternal place in Navadvip as Mahaprabhu's eternal servitor. So we're very fortunate that we're able to free ourselves of these obstacles and bring in auspiciousness by such remembrance. So yesterday, when I was speaking, we were discussing the Guru Vastakam prayers. Astakam means 8. 8 prayers glorifying the spiritual master and indicating the symptoms of the spiritual master. So I see that there are several new people here, and even yesterday I didn't actually read the whole verses and their actual translations. We purported them according to Srila Gurudev's purports. But I'd like to, just as a summary to bring us up to the 4th verse, I'll just quickly read the Sanskrit, and of course you sing it every morning, don't you? Samsara Davan Navi Loka. To deliver the living entities scorched by the blazing fire of material existence, Sri Gurudev, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities, manifests like a condensed cloud of mercy. Krishna is the ocean of all auspiciousness, unlimited qualities, and the Sri Guru is like a cloud that takes water from the ocean and then very condensed, it showers. And when the rain showers, it can put out the forest fire. So I adore the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev. Then Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nritya Geetam. His heart intoxicated by the prema ras of Sriman Mahaprabhu's kirtan, Sri Guru dances, sings, and plays various instruments. Incidentally, when we were in Costa Rica with Srila Gurudev, generally when he would come back from his morning walk, he would sit down and give a little darshan. So in this darshan, he said, do the maidservants of Srimati Radhika participate in the Rasa Leela? And we were all thinking that, well, they don't have any direct relationship with Krishna. They only want Radha and Krishna to meet, and they experience what she experiences, so probably not. So Srila Gurudev himself answered, they certainly participate in Rasa Leela by playing musical instruments and dancing, but not dancing with Krishna directly. In fact, because Krishna is not Rasesvara, the leader of Rasa dance, rather Srimati Radhika is Rasesvari. She is the principal figure in the Rasa dance. Krishna becomes inspired to play his flute by hearing and seeing Srimati Radhika's dance with the tinkling, singing of her ankle bells. Krishna's flute playing plays in harmony with her ankle bells. So once the clasp of the ankle bell loosened, broke off, and the ankle bell flew far away. So Sri Rati Manjari danced over very deftly, very swiftly, over to the ankle bell to pick it up, dance very swiftly, so that nobody would know, dance back to Srimati Radhika and put it on to save the whole rasa dance, so that Krishna wouldn't stop. So Sri Vigrahara Dhananityanana. Oh, so becoming intoxicated with that love, his hair stand on end, he shivers and sheds torrents of tears. Sri Vigrahara Dhananityanana, Shringaratana Mandira Marjanando. Sri Gurudev always worships and serves Sri Vigraha, the deity, dressing and decorating them in various raiments and ornaments that stimulate their Shringar Ras, and performing other services such as cleansing the temple. He also engages his devotees under his guidance in these services. I adore the lotus feet of Sri Guru. So we discussed elaborately yesterday how in this world he's very strict and teaches his followers that strictness of timings and regulations and how to and cleanliness. And also we discussed from Srila Gurudev's Falak Kusmanjali how he serves Radha and Krishna, the moving Vigraha, in Goloka Vrindavan. Then, the last verse that we discussed yesterday, Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasada. Shri Guru feels such happiness in satisfying Sri Hari's devotees with 4 kinds of Bhagavat Prasadam: that which is chewed, that which is sucked, that which is licked, and that which is drunk. By honoring such prasad, material life is destroyed, and true satisfaction, or the bliss of prema, is attained. I adore the lotus feet of Sri Guru. A couple of things that I neglected to mention yesterday regarding prasadam is that whenever we would go to have darshan or class of Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj, whether he spoke or just acknowledged everyone's obeisances, who did that and left because of his health, apparent health situation, he would always give out prasadam. So one day I asked him, what are you doing by always giving out prasadam? And he didn't answer me. If any of you know him, you know that he kind of like goes like that and watches it, like he's watching a television show of Goloka Vrindavan. So he just did that, and I thought maybe he didn't understand my English. So his servant translated into Hindi, still nothing. 2 minutes later, about 20 or 30 devotees walked in, and then he answered it, because he wanted everybody to hear. So the question is, he said, what is transpiring when I give prasadam every time? He said, I'm doing 2 things. I am taking away your anarthas, and I'm giving Krishna prema. Even if the prasadam, the bhoga, is not offered to Krishna and then given to the pure devotee, but it's just given to the pure devotee, and then he distributes it. He said, you can know that Krishna partook of that prasadam. Even if somebody is offering in very fancy rituals, you don't know. It could be imitation. You don't know if Krishna ate it. But if the pure devotee, it's in his hand, and then he distributes, you know Krishna ate it, so it has so much power. So we'll go on to the, Prabhupada used to throw prasadam in the river so that the ducks and fish would get a good birth in their next life. So we'll go on to the next verse, which is Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapada, Madhu Jalila Guna Rupa Namnam. At every moment, Sri Gurudev is experiencing intense greed in his heart to relish. That's Lalu. Lolupasya means lolyam lalasamayi, or great greed. So he experiences intense greed in his heart to relish the unlimited sweetness of the holy names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Sri Radha Madhav. I adore the lotus feet of Sri Guru. Oh, if I can go back for a moment, and I just saw in my notes something about the prasadam. Back in the 70s, we used to give out Simply Wonderfuls to everybody that we gave books to, and when we were on singing in Harinam Sankirtan. So one of the devotees asked Prabhupada in his visit to New York, Simply Wonderful is, who's a cook here? It's like powdered milk with powdered sugar, sometimes nuts and raisins, and butter. So it was really delicious. So somebody asked Prabhupada, what is the benefit of giving Simply Wonderfuls? So Prabhupada said, Simply Wonderful. They have never tasted such a wonderful sweet. And one day they will come to your temple and become wonderful. Everything about this temple is wonderful. The deities are wonderful, the books are wonderful, you are wonderful. So then the devotees called out, no, you are wonderful, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, that's all right, you can become, everyone can become. So going on to Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapada. So great greed means for the pure devotee, he cannot live without that remembrance, even for a moment. He cannot live without being there. In Vilapakusmanjali, Srila Gurudev explained that not only remembering the pastimes, but also remembering with great greed to enter. Sri Guru, Sadguru, the eternal Guru, he has already entered, but he teaches us how to enter, how to develop greed by remembering what we've heard from our Guru Parampara, what's in the books of our Goswamis and Srimad Bhagavatam, as you heard, repeating it to those who are qualified, but with a great greed. I once asked Srila Gurudev, this was 1993, I believe. Now, even Brahma, Lord Brahma, the creator of this universe, can't have this maid service of Srimati Radhika. And even Narada can't have it. So how can I expect to have it? I'm so fallen. So Gurudev said, this question proves that you have no greed. Because greed means that you don't consider your disqualification. Like, who was that? Princess Diana is riding on her bubble car, and then you have a old, ugly, toothless, lame, poor man who is watching her go, and as soon as she's about to pass him, he goes like that, I want to marry her. That greed to marry her didn't take any qualification. I also once asked him, because the devotees were, my god brothers and god sisters were criticizing me, that I was indiscriminately repeating the high katha that Gurudev was saying to people who would use it against myself and my god brothers from ISKCON, and also especially use it against Srila Gurudev. So I said, how can I develop this discrimination to know who to speak with and who not to speak with? So Gurudev said, this very question proves that you have no greed. Because if you have greed, that means you're performing bhakti with your heart. And that bhakti with the heart will dictate anything. No thinking with the mind, shall I or shall I not? So Sri Guru, with great greed, is an intense greed, to always chant about, remember, speak about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Now particularly, what he is appealing to us to come to the platform where we can do is coming to spontaneous love or raganuga bhakti, which means seva sadhaka rupena chira, Krishna smaram janam chasyam, to always remember the associates of the Lord who are oceans of the mood for which we aspire. Remember their pastimes with the Lord. Like, for example, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, always absorbed, whether he's in internal consciousness, half internal, half external, or fully external, he's always remembering the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and his internally conceived spiritual form is always participating. So it would be a pastime like this. Once, Krishna was thinking that Radhika loves me so much, she is worshipping me, not only doing arti to my form, but to my lotus feet. Not only to my feet, but to the toe of my feet. Not only to the toe, but to the nail of my feet. Not only to the nail, but to the effulgence coming out of the nail. Meaning that she's offering her life to me millions of times over. So I feel indebted. What can I do to repay her? So one morning, and this brings us to the next verse, Nikunja Jorno Rati Keli Sidhai. The Sri Guru is always engaged in the secluded kunjas, assisting the gopis who are engaged in assisting in Radha Krishna conjugal love. So Krishna wants to repay her. So he wants to, you know how Indian ladies have this red paint on their feet? So he wanted to paint his name on her feet with this red lac. But because he was thinking, me and my name are the same. So if I paint my name there, then I'll always be there at the embodiment of the highest love, that is Srimati Radhika's lotus feet. But his heart was trembling. So his hands started trembling, and he couldn't exactly write properly. So Srimati Radhika said, "What are you doing, you neophyte painter? You don't know how to paint. Painters aren't supposed to tremble, they're just supposed to paint." And then she glanced over at Raghunath Das Goswami, who's now as Rati Manjari. "You paint. Show this neophyte how to paint." So Krishna was just looking at her, and as she tried to pull the brush, homemade brush of peacock feather with a what? Not a Q-tip, but some cotton. So it becomes like a soft Q-tip. So she was trying to take the brush from Krishna's hand, and he was in a lot of anxiety. So Rati Manjari and the other gopis started laughing. Radhika smiled and she said, "You're not supposed to laugh, you're just supposed to paint." So just as she took, and then when Radhika said that to her, Radhika put her foot on the forehead of Rati Manjari. What was that foot? That foot not only had the red lac that was painted by Krishna, but previously Krishna had her foot on his chest. I don't know if I'm getting too high here. On his chest as he was painting, you want to get a good balance. And his chest had some perspiration because he was trembling, and that perspiration made the kumkum from her breast that got on his chest in an embrace. It made that thing more thick, and then that mixed with the lac became like a thick paste, and that's what she, don't laugh, you're just supposed to paint, and that's what she knocked very gently and lovingly on Rati Manjari's head. So Rati Manjari got so excited, I want to look in the mirror and I want to go to all the other sakis and tell them, look, I am a Chapmara servant. I am a stamped, authorized servant of the government of Srimati Radhika. But, it's not just jive, but as soon as she looked in the mirror to appreciate that, there was nothing there. No Krishna, no Radha, no mirror, no scene. So she immediately, because she immediately came into more external consciousness. And then as Raghunath Das Goswami in external consciousness, he began rolling and weeping on the ground. And with this mood, he was writing Vilapa Kusmanjali. So Sri Guru is absorbed in such pastimes with himself in it, incidentally, with great greed. And at every moment, experiencing newer and newer and newer tastes. Nitya Navanabhaya Mana. Just as Srimati Radhika may have seen Krishna all night with the other gopis, but in the morning when she sees him, she thinks, who is that beautiful personality? Is he a fresh rain cloud? Or a sapphire mountain? Like, it's the first time, because her vision gets newer and newer, because her love is increasing and increasing, and his beauty gets newer and newer and fresher. So that brand new experience is what Sri Guru also experiences. So he's always, with great greed, remembering the pastimes of Shri Radha and Krishna. Then the next verse, Nikunja Jorno Rati Keli Siddhai. The Sri Guru, carrying out the Saki's arrangements for the perfection of their amorous pastimes within the grove. I already mentioned one, which is the one that I just mentioned. So we'll go on because I don't want to take much time because I have a tendency to blabber on. Two more speakers. So I'll stop here, and next time I speak, we'll continue the last. We have Shakshad Hari, and then Yashak Prashadam, and then Srimad Guru. We'll do that next time. Okay, thank you very much, and welcome Nandi, Patitanam Pavane Vyovaish. Vasanti always takes the cane and da-da-da-da-da. By the way, I want to particularly welcome David and Helene. They're the founders of the Think Positive Foundation, which is helping thousands of people and kids in school to think more positively. And even though we have the most positive philosophy and the most positive goal and the most positive identity as spirit souls, sometimes we forget. So if you'd like to get any tips from them, you're welcome to.
Who's next?
Okay, so now we'll hear from, where's the orange seat? Yeah. Patipu So now we're going to hear from
Please put the mic close.
Bhakti Vedanta by
He
Thomas
speaks
Maharaj.
very softly. Closer. Loud.
My pride is wounded. My false ego is raging. What do you mean, speaking to the mic? I know these things. I know better than you.
He's talking to me because I was yelling.
I think that, anyway, you told me.
This is just a
Well,
general
what I was going
reminder.
to speak of, I hate these things. Why can't we have a book? I used to have a book. That's a book, yeah.
Problem.
Oh, okay, wait. I think I've got it. Where am I? Yeah, okay. Well, just, all right. Om Gyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tata Bhaktaya Namo Namah Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Tapaino Viraha Tara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmaitaya Taruvo Vinedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraya Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kitascha Kamari Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Saranam Prapanda Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tavevasmi na jivami tvaya vina iti vigyaya radhe tvam nayanam charanandike vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So we always begin by offering our most humble obeisance under the lotus feet of our beloved gurus. Unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Vishta Om Vishnu Pada Sto Tarasat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahashila Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Vishta Om Vishnu Pada Sto Tarasat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Raj under our exalted Rupa Nuga Guru Varga and all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and today especially we're remembering with fondness and appreciation the lotus feet of Sri Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj, whose appearance day is today. And as Shamrani Didi mentioned, Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj, who was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Dayita Maharaj, godbrother of Srila Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj, he was with us. He lived a long time, but his prominent role was very short. He always assisted and served Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj, the Acharya of their mission, and after the disappearance of Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj, he struck out a little bit on his own and was nurturing and serving so many devotees from different sanghas, many from the Sangha of Srila Gurudev. And he used to come to Bangalore quite a bit, and almost every time he came, he would say that on these days, these appearance and disappearance days, not only beneficial to speak about such personalities, it's an absolute necessity. By doing so, we get great benefit, but if we neglect, that's not a very good thing. And so this morning, we heard some very beautiful katha. Prem Prayojan Prabhu was speaking so nicely, so many memories. Shamrani Didi has reiterated some of those same points. And I spoke a little in the morning. But we remember him with fondness and gratitude and indebtedness for his role in Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti and Gurudev's international preaching in the mission of Mahaprabhu. So, I'm not going to speak very long because the later it gets, the more difficult it is for people to be attentive in here, especially me, and I want to hear from Prem Prayojan, we'll do a little bit later, and I don't want to be tired. So out of self-interest, I'm not going to speak too long. But there is something that I had been wanting to say, because we have a lot of people that are relatively new coming to Bhakti, people of different levels of eligibility, but people have not necessarily systematically heard. And our philosophy is very broad, and so many points to bring together, to reconcile. I remember when I first moved to India full-time after I had retired, and I didn't have any real depth of understanding at all. This was 2002 to 2004, I stayed the winter, and I stayed in Rup Sanatan, and I was listening to Rasananda Prabhu every morning and every evening. He's now Bhaktivedanta Sridhar Maharaj, but he used to be the Mahant of the Mat there, Rup Sanatan. And beautiful classes, beautiful classes. But he'd speak about so many different subject matters, and each one of them was new, and I felt like, have you ever done a jigsaw puzzle, right? All these different pieces, right? And you got blue sky, and you got a castle, and you got forest, and you got a river, and some of it looks similar to something else, but if you don't have the picture in front of you, the whole picture, you don't know what any of these pieces are. And so every day I was hearing a new piece of philosophy, and I'd take notes, and I'd put it there, and then I'd hear a new one and notes, but I couldn't put any of it together. I couldn't put any together, because, after about a year or two, I was going through my notes. I was like, I don't know any of this. And then, within a year of that, Gurudev gave me shotgun sannyas, which you were there for, and I said, Gurudev, he said, why do you want sannyas? I said, I don't want sannyas. You wanted me to be sannyas. He said, oh, but in your heart you've asked. I said, Gurudev, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. And he says, oh, you know enough. You know enough. And I said, and this relates to Sri Trivikram Maharaj and to Gurudev and Sri Balaram Maharaj. And I said, look, Gurudev, come here. I'm just trying to surrender to your lotus feet. So if you want me to take sannyas, I'll do it. And I'll take shelter of your lotus feet, and I won't let go for the rest of my life. And he said, this is the right answer. He said, when we took sannyas, when our Gurudev told us to take sannyas, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman and Srila Trivikram Maharaj, they were all in their 30s. Gurudev was in his young 30s, Trivikram Maharaj a few years older, Srila Vaman Maharaj the same age. And Gurudev said, we said we're not qualified. And Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj said, no, this is not your decision. Your guru will tell you if you're qualified or not. And if you follow his order, he will empower and he'll give you the ability. And this is true with all seva, everything that you do. So we always impose limitations on ourselves, but when we're taking complete shelter of Sri Guru, then whatever he wants, we become instruments of that. And the longer you engage in seva, the more you will see that. Srila Prabhupada himself may be the greatest example of that, because he came to America absolutely penniless. In reality, he had a case of books, and he had 40 rupees, but at that time, rupees were not exchangeable on the, they weren't, it wasn't even considered a currency, so he really was penniless. But he had absolute faith that no matter what the result was, he was going to carry out the order of his Guru Maharaj to the best of his ability. And his faith was so strong, he had emptied himself of everything but that order. He was completely anyabhilashita, shunyam. He was completely devoid of any personal interest, and completely anukulyena, Krishnanushīlanam, totally, fully absorbed in the service of Sri Guru, Hari Guru, and Vaishnav, in the most favorable, dedicated mood. So that's what we're trying to learn. That's what we're trying to learn. And so there's a lot of terms being bandied about, and I know how I struggled with these terms and understanding. This morning I told the story how Trivikram Raj helped me understand Shiksha and Diksha Guru. And you're hearing this over and over, and I thought that I would read one short verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita and one from Bhagavatam to help us understand that and Srila Prabhupada's purport. Because back when I was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I never knew the word Shiksha Guru. And it was only after Srila Prabhupada had left that, and then we had new gurus all of a sudden. 11 people told us now they were our gurus. I said, well, how am I going to adjust to this? How am I going to accommodate this? So I found a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srila Prabhupada's purport. And even though there's some qualification to be Shiksha Guru, it helped me to adjust and reconcile the idea, this is the beginning of the journey, that there can be another person to assist you in your spiritual life besides your Diksha Guru. Because generally, when you're a new disciple, your Diksha Guru is also your Shiksha Guru. They're the one who are giving you your instruction. Srila Gurudev would say, now this is a very simple understanding. What is Diksha? He said there's two syllables, Diksha, and he said that Div means Divya Gyan, transcendental knowledge. And Sha means unwanted things. So when one takes initiation, Guru is injecting transcendental knowledge, the seed of enthusiasm for service to Krishna in the heart of the devotee, that inspiration, and removing anarthas and unwanted things, the obstacles. And there's two kinds of initiation. One is called anukstani, and that applies to most of us. That when we take initiation, we're not fully qualified for initiation, and it's the beginning of the process. The real process of initiation is called vidvadruti, and that means the conception or the understanding of something from the transcendental realized position. And so when one takes initiation with full faith, with full knowledge in one's guru, then an actual transformation takes place in the heart of that devotee. Transcendental realization, transcendental emotion, knowledge of the real nature of Sri Nam, the real nature of one's guru, the real nature of oneself and one's relationship with Guru and Krishna, that manifests in the heart. The example is Mahaprabhu himself. Even though Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he went through all the different stages of life in such a way to demonstrate to us how one becomes a devotee. He first showed himself as a scholar, uninterested in spiritual life. This was a pastime. And if you've ever read Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's actually extremely delightful to read this, because he's the Supreme Lord, he knows who he is, and he knows who all these devotees are. His eternal associates, not just his associates from Vrindavan, but his associates from so many of his other incarnations are also there. Devotees of Sri Ram, devotees of Varaha, devotees of the Shringadev, they all come. This is one of the specialities of Mahaprabhu, that they come and participate in his pastime. But Yogamaya covers all of them. So they don't know who they are in Krishna Lila or Ram Lila, and they don't know their relationships with each other from their other identities, and they don't know his identity. But they do have the same deep love for him. And so it's bewildering for them, because they have deep, deep love for Mahaprabhu. But they're frustrated, because he seems to be this proud, arrogant, disinterested scholar, striding around Navadvip, arguing with everybody, calling the devotees and arguing and taunting them. They sometimes try to run from him. And, Mukunda, where do you think you're going? You're running away. You know, you're worried that I won't be a devotee, but I tell you, one day I'll be the greatest of devotees. Even Lord Brahman, Lord Shiva will come to me and acknowledge this. And they thought I was just boasting again. But they loved him from the core of their heart. And they said, if only Nimai would become a devotee, then everything would be okay. And this was the first thing. This is the blessing of the devotees, which is what we also heard about the pastime of Raghunath Das of Paniyati. This is what Nityananda also did for him. All the devotees should bless him. Nityananda blessed him, but he also said all of you should bless him as well. So he got the blessings of devotees. So that's important in our life. Right? We have to seek the mercy of Vaishnavas. Not just glorious big Vaishnavas, but the servants of the Vaishnavas. Why? Because they're the dear ones of the great Vaishnavas. They're the children of the great Vaishnavas. So Srila Prabhupada used to say, love me, love my dog. If there's a great man walking down the street, he's not going to pay any attention to you. But if you say, oh God, is that a Rottweiler? Wow, that's a beautiful dog you have. The man's going to go, oh yes, this is a very good fellow. He likes my dog. And then he'll like you, right? So we're just the dogs, you know. But if you serve the dogs of the Guru, you know, the Guru doesn't think we're dogs. I mean, he loves us like, you know, like his children. And if you serve his children, then he'll be very pleased with you. So Mahaprabhu was taking the blessings. Then one day Ishwar Puri comes to Mayapur, and Mahaprabhu was walking down the street, and he sees him, and he becomes very attracted, and Ishwar Puri sees him. And they begin talking, and Ishwar Puri says, oh, you're Nimai Pandit. Oh, I've heard of you. Oh, you're Ishwar Puri. And they began talking, and then every single day after that, for months, Mahaprabhu would spend hours talking with Ishwar Puri. And they had a beautiful relationship, because even though Nimai Pandit was generally acknowledged as the topmost scholar in all of India, which meant the world, in logic and grammar and argument, he's also the Lord, and he's completely filled with all the conclusions of the scriptures. So he would have that kind of talk with Ishwar Puri. But Ishwar Puri Pad is the disciple of Madhavendra Puri, who is the root of the tree of Chaitanya. He was the one who appeared through which Mahaprabhu, he was the first one to manifest the special moods that Mahaprabhu came to deliver. And so Ishwar Puri was filled with these moods, that of this deep understanding of conjugal love of Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan. And so secretly Mahaprabhu, Nimai, was relishing this with him. And he was taking this association, and this is the next step, to begin to hear, as we've been hearing over and over, and to associate with great personalities. Then time passed, Ishwar Puripad left, Mahaprabhu had to go to Gaya to do Shraddha ceremony for his father, and when he got there, who was there? Ishwar Puripad. Oh. And I don't know if any of you remember, but whenever people from all over the world would come to India to see Gurudev, he'd say, oh, you're here? And he'd be so happy to see them, and people be so pleased and excited. And Ishwar Puri, oh, you're here? And this was the maturation of the previous Sukriti. First, the well-wishers of the Vaishnavas, the hearing and associating and engaging in acts of devotion, more and more Sukriti, and then his faith had fully developed in a particular personality, took initiation, and as soon as he took initiation, his heart was filled with divine love. That's Vidvadruti initiation. And that is not what we are at yet, but this is what we're aspiring for. Coincidentally, on the night before our sannyas, Gurudev was giving a lecture, and I was sitting next to Gyanadas, who he was to become Nami Maharaj the next day. And I'm feeling like the condemned prisoner, you know, who's about to be executed the next day, hoping the governor will call and give me a reprieve. Because factually, sannyas means you're dying, die to live. You're giving up your previous life totally. There's no backing out, you know? So, especially at my age, and I thought, oh God, Gurudev usually lets people off, you know? He's just kind of testing them and they're building their greed. Yeah. Anyway, it was not to happen, you know, it's going to happen. So, Gurudev is speaking, and all of a sudden he says from the Vyasa-san that sannyas initiation does not mean that you become a sannyasi. It means that you can begin the process of becoming a sannyasi. Because sannyas, the actual qualification is bhav, bhakti. This is stated in Jaiva Dharma. But we can take heart in this, because diksha means to begin that process. Begin that process. And it's extraordinarily powerful. The impressions that are made in the heart go so deep that at some point, at some day, they'll be realized. In fact, not even diksha. When we're reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, you're talking about hearing. Gurudev would say, if you hear with respect and honor, so much benefit will be there. And what benefit is it? If you look to Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second verse actually, at the end of the verse, it says, Satyam hridyavarudite chakirtivis shushushavis takshanat. It means, and by this culture of hearing this transcendental knowledge, Krishna comes into the heart of that devotee. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, now listen to this, it's really important, that anyone who even hears Bhagavatam, Krishna takes note and says, they're mine. They're mine. Even if they don't know anything, they're mine. And then he says, so what to speak of someone who hears with some faith and respect? And if you don't have faith and respect, you pray that you had faith and respect. Right? And what's the result? That this perfection, prem, comes into the heart. For those who have that faith and respect, that are qualified, that hearing of Bhagavatam results in prem. And he says, for the rest, everyone else, it'll take a little longer. Like a fruit. A fruit on a tree, it doesn't happen right away. It takes a while for the tree to grow. Then when it matures to the point where it can produce fruit, first there's a flower, then there's a bud, and then the little fruit begins. And it takes a while. It may take some time. And the best fruits take the longest. But once you hear, it's begun. And so we just want full faith and enthusiasm. So that's not what I was going to talk about. That happens, but anyway, that's that's the way it goes. So I'm going to stop here. But I just wanted to say all these things because you got a chance the next few days. You're hearing from people that have heard a lot, who have served a lot, who have realization, who have faith, who have some greed, right? And by that association, we can get a lot. Gurudev one time said when, actually he told Shamrani this. She one time said, oh, Gurudev, how can I preach? What do I know? Because when we all came, from our background in this kind of associating with these Gaudiya Math devotees, they were so learned, right? So developed. We thought, what can we teach? And especially me. I mean, her, a different story, but still, she was feeling humble. And she said, oh, I don't know anything. And he said, well, if you're looking in that direction and you're seeing these devotees, these senior devotees, you may think like that. There may be a few that know more than you. But if you look in the other direction, you see all these thousands and millions of people that you can help. And this is our job. We heard this Rasik quoted it. Yare deke tare kaha Krishna Upadesha Mara Akhanda Guru Upadesh, something, anyway. Wherever you go, wherever you meet, you teach them about Krishna. And you think, oh, I can't do it, I don't know anything. But you know something. When we first started preaching, when we first joined the movement, they said you have to preach, and we'd go out on Harinam and be chanting. And I remember I joined, and I'd go out on the chanting party. 2 days later, they said, give a speech to the crowd. I said, what? Give a speech to the crowd. I said, what? A speech about what? Tell them about chanting, Harinam. I said, I don't know anything. He said, you know something. And so I stood up. I still remember the speech. And I said, and you gotta understand, there's like 300 people in a crescent circle around us. That's what it was like in New York. And at this time, I can see it in my mind's eye. I know the sidewalk. We were up on near Fifth Avenue, near the library. Yeah, near the library, and this huge crowd. A big crescent, like they'd be 4 deep going. They never seen anything like it. And I said, oh, we're chanting Hare Krishna. And if you chant Hare Krishna, you'll be really happy, because this is the name of God, and we're all part of God. So chant Hare Krishna. And I turn around and it goes, yeah, good job. And you know what? That was the kind of preaching we first heard. But like Bhagavan says, because it's coming through the order of the pure devotee, it has power, it has effect. So you're all part of it. Take heart, be strong, and listen very carefully now to what Prayojan Prabhu says, and to remember it and carry that and learn how to preach. Gaur Premanande.
I'm not 100% sure his microphone's right. Oh, you're gonna find out.
Bale Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki jai, Vaisani Wali ki jai, Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe. Vidho Radharamana Giridhari, Giridhari Shama Banwari, Vidho Radharamana Vidho Radharamana Giridhari, Giridhari Shama Banwari, Vidho Radharamana Giridhari Shama Banwari, Vidho Radharamana Giridhari, Vidho Radharamana Giridhari, Vidho Radharamana Giridhari, Vidho Radharamana Giridhari, Giridhari Kunja Bihari, Giridhari Rasa Bihari, Giridhari Rasa Bihari, Radhe, Radhe Govinda Padma Radhe, Radhe, ही प्राणों से प्यारी लागे ब्रज मंडल माही बसाए रहो रसिकों के सुसन में मस्त रहो जगजाल से नाता बचाए रहो नित्य प्यारी की झांकी निहारत करो नित्य प्यारी की झांकी निहारत करो चारी झांकों से नाता चिकाए रहो मेरे विनोद बिहारी यही विनोती मेरी नैनों से नैना मिलाए रहो गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो 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 राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरि बोल हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बड़े वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय वृषभ राजकुमारी जू की जय 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 श्री राधे श्याम नाय गौर सीधनाथ प्रेमानंदे नाम श्रेष्ठम मनमपि विश्वचिपुत्रम अत्र स्वरूपम रूपम तस्याग्रजामुरिपुरीं माथुरीं गोष्वात् Radhakundagiridvaram Ahoradikamadvasam Raktoyasa Pratitkripaya Sri Gurum Tam Natosmi Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadali Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Ananda Leelamaya Vigrahaya Hemabhaddivyascha Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Sham Sundar Shikandashi Swaraha Surali Manohara Radhika Rasakamama Kripanidhi Supriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Tavai Vasmi Rajivami Tayavana Tivikyaya Devi Tam Charanantikam. First of all, I offer my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times, at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev,
Asmati Parmarata Tama Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtotra Satasri Rupanugacharya Varya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada, especially to Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj on his appearance day, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, after my pranam to Anandi Tirandipadagan, Srimati Shamrani Didi, and all the some Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Vanchaka, Basandu, Puritanam, So, by the causeless mercy of Sri Gauranga Gauranga, today we have been observing the auspicious appearance day of Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. So in the morning, we had an opportunity to speak in some detail about Guru Tattva and also some drops of nectar from the life and the activities of Srila Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. He was a great poet. You know, he has composed the arti poem sung to Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, which is sung every evening to his Sri Vigraha in Devananda Gaudiya Math. And there he has expressed his profound humility, saying that, oh, how Sajjan Sevak and Gaur Narayan are serving Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, and this worthless Trivikram is standing from far away and watching with great astonishment. So we've heard something about the very firm and strong exterior of Maharaj. But a wonderful thing, an astonishing thing is, and those of you who have associated with him and heard his classes, that you'll know for sure, is that after giving a very uncompromising and cutting class, you know, because this is the nature of a sadhu. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur used to say, if a sadhu will flatter me, then he becomes my enemy. Sadhu will not flatter us, but rather, just as at a sacrifice of sacrificial goats, all the goats are standing in a line, and the priest is there with his upraised sword, and so in the same way, when we come into the Harikatha of a pure sadhu, then we are coming, and our desires are like so many sacrificial goats standing in a line. And by his strong words, he's killing them, he's sacrificing them one after another, until the heart is pure. So his classes were like this. But then, what would happen? At the end of his class, he would finish with a bhajan. And most of the time, sometimes the bhajan would be Narada Muni Bhajai Vina, about the glories of the holy name. But more often than not, he used to sing Sri Radha Krishna Padakamale Mama by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he would sing it. If anyone heard him sing it, then you become haunted by that experience for your whole life. Singing from the core of his heart with tears in his eyes. So I thought that this evening, we may take a few moments to remember this bhajan that was very dear to Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. Because this song really encapsulates the essence of the inner life of the Rupanuga Vaishnavas. We want to come to such a stage that what is being expressed here by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that this becomes our permanent mood at every second, in every breath. So first of all, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Sri Radha Krishna Padakamale. There's the books, you can discern. Kemanilo Vive Charamashada. Oh, mana means, oh dear mind. He's preaching. To whom? To his own mind. This is very important. To preach to our own mind. Because actually, no one can stop us, so no one can obstruct us, no one can give us a problem in our life. The only person who makes problems for us is us, actually. So he's praying, oh my dear mind, Kemani lobidi charmashana, when will you take shelter completely of the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna? It's very profound. In the Vedas it is said, Raso Vaisaha, Rasame Vayam Labdadandi Bhavati. The supreme absolute truth is the embodiment of all rasa. And if one can attain that rasa, then he becomes completely full of joy forever. But what is the nature of rasa? Rasa saro chamatkaraha. The nature of transcendental rasa is that it is chamatkar, astonishing. Astonishing. As Srimati Shamarani Didi was saying, Srila Prabhupada was saying, Krishna is wonderful, Prasad is wonderful. If you serve Krishna, you will become wonderful. That means full of wonder, right? Full of wonder. To be in a state, oh, everything is so new, so fresh, so surprising, astonishing. So it's very easy to say, oh, Radhika is here, or Krishna is here, they say this, or do this. But if the heart is not clear, there's no chamatkar. It's not surprising. But the very nature of Radha Krishna Lila, it is completely astonishing. If Sri Krishna will just enter into the forest of Vrindavan, then Bibrajat Tilakat Kalinda Tanya Niro Ganilambro Jancha Champak Kanchana Ruchirahol Nana Rasullasini Krishna Prema Payodarena or Sadena Pyanta Sammohini Gopen Ratma Javalaba Vijayate Radeva Brindatavi. When Sri Krishna enters into the forest of Vrindavan and he sees the sesame flowers, the teal flowers, then it reminds him of the tilak of Srimati Radhika. When he sees the blue waves of the Jamuna, then in his heart he's having a spurti of the beautiful blue cloth of Srimati Radhika. When he sees the golden champak flowers in the forest and their very soft, sweet effulgence, then Krishna is having a spurti of the golden shining face of Srimati Radhika. Nana Rasullasini. And he experiences so many rasas in his heart. Krishna Prema Payoda Rain Rasadin. When he sees the rain clouds gathering in the sky, it reminds him of the masses of the curling hair of Srimati Radhika. When he sees the waterfalls coming down the side of Giraj Govardhan, it's as if he's having a spurti of the perspiration of Radhika running down her body. So in this way, Krishna entering into the forest of Vrindavan is not an ordinary thing. It is chamatkar. Amazing. Astonishing. Oh, Radheva Vrindata. Oh, glories to this forest of Vrindavan. It appears to be Radhika herself. What to speak of when Krishna sees Radhika? Then if Krishna will look and see, oh, what happened? All the birds are flying here and there and singing, and their hearts are disturbed. The whole forest, which was green in color, is now becoming bathed in a golden effulgence. What's going on? Esha nanti kavartini suragare ilavitaham tabu agre king kalayami kanchana ratam udgara gauri disha angyatam maninu paradoni varam varad ali janalankrita kanti nam kula devata vilasitum brindata vindati. What is this? I've never seen anything like it in my life. Oh, the forest has become golden. Did I become lost and wander into the valley of in Ilavrtavash, in the valley of the Mandara mountain, Sumeru mountain? Sumeru mountain is golden, and when the sun shines on it, then it makes the whole forest golden. So Krishna thought, I got lost, and somehow I came to the valley of the Mandara mountain, Sumeru mountain, sorry, and everything is golden here. Is that what happened? And he's Adbut, he's Vismayras, he's struck with wonder. And he's having so many century bhavs. What are those century bhavs? Tarka. Tarka means, is it like this or is it like that? Am I here? Am I there? What am I doing? What is approaching? And then after Tarka, this Sanchari Bhav, that's a wave in the ocean of love. Then another wave comes Mati. When the person makes a decision, yes, I know what's happening. I have not come into the Ilavrita. How do I know? Because I can hear some ankle bells and I'm becoming very amorously attracted by the sound of those ankle bells. However, if someone goes into Ilavrita, what happens? They turn into a woman. You know? There's a curse there. Have Lord Shiva that if anyone will come, they'll turn into a woman. So Krishna's feeling a great amorous agitation from this golden effulgence and the sound of ankle bells. So I cannot be in Ilavrita. Then what must be the answer? By the sound of these ankle bells, it seems that Kantinam Kuladevata, that the goddess of effulgence, has come here to the forest, surrounded by her Sakhis. And he looked and saw, the goddess of effulgence has come. He cannot even recognize Shrimati Radhika, though he is seeing her every day. But the nature of Anurag is that Milita Milavo Chahe, Mili Milanikibu, Miliraska Bharat Prema So, Pratichina Bharatafu. When the lover and beloved meet, even though they're meeting, their thirst is so intense that they feel as if they have not met. And even meeting, then they want to meet. They feel as if they want to meet even when they're meeting. And in each moment, their thirst is increasing more and more. If you have an unquenchable thirst, if you drink 1 liter of water, then how do you feel? As if you have not had even 1 drop. So though Radha and Krishna are drinking each other's beauty, through their eyes, through their ears, through all of their senses, through 5 senses, their taste, the Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasagandha of each other, at every moment they never feel any satisfaction. It is astonishing. It is said in Brajabhasha, Paki God Kachikari. There's a game, actually Radha Krishna play this game, Chaupar. You know, there's a board, and you throw the dice and you have to move your pieces. And you make your pieces go round and you have to get them in the middle in the safe house. And once they're there, then they're safe, and the person who gets all their pieces there has won the game. But if someone will land on your square, then you lose your piece. So, it is said, Paki God Kachikari, that when a person is playing the game and they have to throw the exact dice number to land in the safe house. So then they throw the exact number and they put that piece in the safe house. Now they can forget about that. They can work on their other pieces. But then what happens? Next time they throw the dice, the person has become mad, and then the part that was in the safe house, he moves it again out of the safe house. So Paki God Kachikari, that which was already completed now becomes uncompleted. Everything becomes undone. So in the same way, when Radha and Krishna meet, though their union is complete, but the next moment by Bhav, Paki God Kachikari, everything that became complete became undone. And Krishna thinks, oh, who is that girl? Radhika thinks, who is that boy? This is the nature of praying. So it is Chamatkar, Adbut, Ascharya. So Sri Radha Krishna Padakamalemana, oh my dear mind, when will I take shelter of that Radha and Krishna, whose love is so profound and beyond our worldly conception? Chirad, in the name of this verse, Chiradina Korya Ocharanayasa Achihe Posya Yadamudasa. I have the desire to take shelter of you, Chiradin, for a long time. This wretched servant is simply sitting here waiting. So those who have the greed, have developed some greed in Raganuga Bhakti. Greed is not theoretical. It doesn't mean I heard something and it's really interesting and I'm overwhelmed with enthusiasm to find out some more about this. Srila Vishnu Thakur and Raghavat Machanitra said, what is greed? Yataya tatma paribhrijate so madguna kata shravana vidane tatata tat pasati vastu shukshmam chakshoyataivanyada samprayuktam. Just as a person who has a disease of their eyes cannot see the small print, they cannot see small things, fine things. But when the doctor smears an ointment on their eyes, gradually, they can see finer and finer things. So in the same way, when a person engages in hearing, chanting and remembering, as their heart becomes cleansed, they begin to realize Krishna's Nam, Roop, Gun, associates. And then seeing how those associates are serving, he thinks, I want to serve like that. This is greed. After that, he takes up the actual sadhana. Krishnam smaram janam chasya. Prastam nija samhita. The actual sadhana of Raganuga Bhakti begins there. So, Chiradin, for a long time I was waiting. This process is not so easy. It will not come in one day, let us say, to understate it. In fact, Srimati Shamarani Didi, she was very much inspired me before. In fact, all the speakers have been very inspiring. But she quoted a verse of Manashiksha, Yadichye avasam brajabhuvi saragam pratijanur yuvadangam tachat paritaritum ara davilase. It means, oh my dear mind, if at all you desire to attain the service of Radha Krishna in the Nikunjas of Vrindavan, on the level of the eternal associates, then pratijanu means birth after birth. Cry out with great love and bow down again and again and call out, O Swarup Damodar Goswami, O Rupa Goswami, O Sanatan Goswami, O Gurudev. How? Lifetime after lifetime. It's not a very easily attainable thing. Even greed, real greed, mature greed, by which one is qualified for Raganuga sadhana, is very rare. So he's saying here, Chiradina Korea, I've had this desire for a long time. Hey Radhe, hey Krishna, Chandra Bhakta Prana, Pamare Yugala, Bhakti Koradam. Hey Radhe, O Srimati Radhe. Hey Krishna Chandra, O Bhakta Pran, you who are the life and soul of all the devotees. Pamara Yugala Bhakti Koridam. I am a very wretched person. Please give me Yugala Bhakti. What is Yugala Bhakti? Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has written, Sanchari Syat Samonava Krishna Ratya Suriddhati Adhika Pushamana Chet Bhav Ullas Iti Yate. There's a type of love, it's called Bhav Ullas. In this mood, there is love for Krishna, the Sthai Bhav. Rati is always to Krishna. The Sthai Bhav, the foundational sentiment, is always to Krishna. But the love for a friend, a Sakhi, is a Sanchari Bhav. That means a wave, an assisting emotion in that ocean of love. So that's called Suridrati, love for a friend. So if the love for a friend is equal or less than the love for Krishna, then it remains as a Sanchari Bhav. But sometimes it happens that this love for the friend, in this case, that Sakhi is Radhika. In some cases, in other words, in the case of Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari, the maidservants, their love for Radhika is so intense that how can a wave become bigger than the ocean? Not possible. But anyway, their love for Radhika completely pervades their love for Krishna. The love for Krishna becomes vyapt, completely pervaded by the love for Radhika. And then the love for Krishna takes a secondary position and it nourishes love for Radhika, and that takes the prominent position. And so the love for Radhika remains always more than the love for Krishna. The love for Krishna is the Sthai Bhav. But this Sanchari Bhav of love for the friend becomes permanently in a superior position. So this is called Bhavalasarati. So he's praying here, Oh Radha, oh Krishna, please give me love. But what type of love? The love in which the love for Krishna is completely pervaded by love for Radhika, and the love for Radhika is more superior. So then he said, Bhakti hina boli na karo upeksha, moka jane deo gyan susiksha. Oh, please do not neglect me, saying that I am devoid of bhakti. Instead, give this murka, this ignorant person, jnana susiksha, pure instruction in bhajan. So here, obviously Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's saying, I have no bhakti at all, but really, he has bhakti. But it's the nature of bhakti that premara swabhav Krishna, premara sambandha, saimani Krishna mohi, nahi prema gandha. Wherever there is love for Krishna, then the person in whose heart that love appears, he feels as if I have no love at all, not even a slight fragrance of love. Oh, please, give me susiksha. That means that Krishna has said, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paripasate, tesham nityabhyuktanam yogaksema vahamyaham. Whatever you need, if you're always serving me, I bring it, I give that. So that means, if a devotee is trying to do bhajan, and he needs guidance of a bhajan shiksha guru, then Sri Krishna will send that bhajan shiksha guru to instruct us and guide us, to make the mind steady. Like Srila Raghunath Das Goswami himself. His Diksha Guru was Yadunandanacharya. But then he came under the guidance of Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and especially Swarup Damodar Goswami, Gadadhar Pandit. But they all left this world. And then he came under the guidance of Sanatana Goswami. In the end, Srila Rupa Goswami. Yadyatnata Samadamatma Viveka Yoga Adhyatma Lagnam Lagnam Avikarma Bun Manome. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami said, I am remembering that I was trying to do bhajan, but I could not go deep. So Srila Rupa Goswami gave me instructions how to Avikarma Bun Manobe, how make my mind near vikar, completely steady. Because unless the mind is completely steady, then the anubhuti, realization, will not manifest. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite malay. Like Vyas when he went into trance. Samyak pranihite malay. His chitta was completely arrested, stopped all movement. And then in his pure heart, the transcendental realization came. So Raghunath Das Goswami said, Yadyatnata. Again and again Rupa Goswami tried to make my mind steady. And then when he made my mind steady, just by his sweet smile and his merciful glance, he has made me mad for the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So this is Murka Jane Deho Jnana Sushiksha. Vishaya Pipasa Pravit De Dase Deho Dikara Yugala Vilase. Oh, this servant is very, very thirsty for the sense enjoyment. Really, a devotee in this stage is not thirsty for sense enjoyment, but when he comes out from his inner state, then he thinks, why did I come out? What am I doing here? Why am I in contact with the sense objects of this world? Fly on me, I am so wretched. Like Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Atmanam Chedvijaniyam. He said, he used to take the rotten rice that came from the drains of Jagannath Puri, that even the cows would not eat, and taking that rice, he would wash it, and then before eating, then what would he say? Atmanam Chatvijaniyam. Oh, if I really realize that I'm not this body, and if my consciousness is purified, then why do I continue to eat this food like a lumpet, like a debauchee? Why am I staying alive in this world if really I have realized I am not this body? So the devotee in that stage, he thinks, oh, when he's coming out, alas, alas, what am I doing here? And weeps in separation and criticizes himself. Of the 33 century bhavs, the first one is called the Nirved. Nirved means disparagement, atmaninda, to criticize oneself. It's a type of ecstasy. So then he's saying, Chanchala jivana srota pravahiya kalera sagare daya. this life is like a fast-flowing river, and it is going quickly to the ocean of death. Never forget this. Never forget this. When Julius Caesar, after conquering the world, used to return to Rome, and all the crowds were glorifying him, he used to have one servant next to him. And that servant's job was just to say to him, "Memento mori," which means, remember you will die. Keep your feet on the ground. Don't get lost in anything. Memento mori. Death is coming. We're in a river flowing very, very quickly. So, Gelo je divasa na asi bea. Ebe Krishna kiyo pai. Each day is going by and these days are not coming back. Oh Krishna, what will be the remedy? What will be the solution? I'm trying to do bhajan, but I'm not making any progress and my life is going on. Alas, alas. So these are the symptoms actually of bhav. Shanti avyartakalatvam, the second symptom that bhav has appeared in the heart, is that the devotee is very careful not to waste even 1 second. Every single second of his life, he's endeavoring intensely to attain the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. But what do? Out of ignorance, we squander time. I will live forever. Death, everyone's dying. Death, everyone else can die, but not me. This is the influence of avidya. So, it's very important. Srila Gurudev used to say, just like a man got a job in a candle factory, and when he came home, he found that there was wax on his hands. So he washed it off. And then he worked the next day, and then after some time, he tried to wash it, but it wouldn't come off. It was so soaked into his skin, he had a permanent coating of wax. And it wouldn't come out. So in the same way, if we sing these songs of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur every day, gradually, something will stick. And that bhav will gradually become our own mood. So then he's praying, Tumi to patita janera bandhu, jani hai tumhara nath, Tumi to karuna jalasindhu. Oh Krishna, you are the friend of the fallen persons. Knowing that I am very fallen, please be merciful to me. You are the ocean of mercy. So just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was prayed, Ayi nanda tanuja kinkaram, patitam mam vishame bhavanbudo. In other verses of Shri Krishna earlier, he said, Etadrishi Bhagavan, Etadrishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan. Mama, he said Bhagavan. Right? Bhagavan. But now in this verse, he's not saying Bhagavan. He's coming in the stage of Asakti, this verse. In the stage of Asakti, there is an abhas, a semblance of realization of one's Swarup. And one becomes really connected with Krishna according to one's eternal sambandha. There. So there in Vrindavan, Krishna is not Bhagavan. Narayan can be Bhagavan. But in there, Ayi Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. Krishna is just the son of Nanda Maharaj. Oh, please be merciful to me. Pick me up from this dreadful ocean of material existence and place me at your lotus feet. Ami bhagyahin ati avachin na jani bhakati lesha. I am devoid of good fortune. I am extremely neophyte and don't have even a trace of bhakti. Actually, to attain the realization of Bhakti Rasa, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad in Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, he said, Praktanya duniki chasti yasya sad bhakti vasana Aisha bhakti rasasvadas tasyaiva ridijayate. If a person has deep samskars, deep impressions in their heart of bhakti, up to the stage of rati, in this life and in the previous life, then he becomes qualified in this life to taste bhakti rasa. So this is a very profound statement of Srila Rupa Goswami. If someone has developed up to the stage of rati, that means nishta, ruchi, asakti, and some rati has appeared in the last life, then in this life they will become qualified to taste bhakti rasa. So it is very, very high stage. And generally, we are in this life just making the impressions to try to come up to that stage and have some impression of what is rati. And then next life, bhakti rasa may be really experienced. So he's saying, I am very unfortunate. I don't have such deep impressions. I am very neophyte. But my Lord, nija guninat, I am not qualified, but you have great qualities. You are causelessly merciful. So karo atmasat. We spoke the other day about what it means, atmasat. You make me one with you. You make me that I have no independence at all. That my heart and your heart is one. My senses and your senses are one. Karo atmasat. Guchaya bhava klesha. And take away all the klesh, all the suffering of this material world. So now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is coming. He was shy to express what he wants. And now he's openly expressing it. Siddha deha diya vrindavana mahaje seva mrita karudana piyaya prema mata kari more shuno nija gunagana. Siddha deha diya, please give to me my siddha deha, my eternally perfect spiritual body. What is that? Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has described something about the kinkaris, the spiritual forms of Radhika's maidservants. He said, Si Radha Pada Padma Chavi Madhurataya Prima Chis Jyotiri Kambute Udbhuta Pena Stavakamayatanu Sava Vaidagjapurna Kaishora Vyandichas Tadgana Rukapanakana Sri Chamatkara Bhajo Divyalankara Vasta Anusarasakri Radhika Kinkaristaha. O Sakhi, O friend, please take shelter of the kinkaris, the maidservants of Shrimati Radhika. They are qualified in singing, dancing, playing musical instruments, decorating, all types of arts. They are decorated in Divya Alankara Vastra, transcendental ornaments and cloth, especially because they have pleased Radhika by their services. Radhika gives her prasadi cloth and ornaments to her maidservants. And then when the maidservants are dressed in Radhika's own cloth and ornaments, how beautiful they look. And when Sri Krishna sees them, then he remembers, oh, I remember that day I met with Radhika when she was wearing this ornament, when she was wearing this cloth. So only seeing them, Sri Krishna is having so many spurtis of his pastimes with Krishna. But we haven't said anything, only about the ornaments and cloth. What about the actual bodies of these manjaris? So Sri Radha Pada Padma Chavi, it is said that the lotus feet of Radhika have an effulgence. The prem is emanating from her lotus feet. And that prem spreads out. And it becomes condensed. And it condenses and becomes a vast ocean. And that ocean has high waves. And when those waves rise up and crash down, then a foam goes into the air. Pain Stabaka. The foam rises into the air. And that foam which is emanated from the waves in the ocean of the prem, concentrated, condensed love emanating from the lotus feet of Radhika, that foam is Tabakamayitanu, the bodies of her manjaris. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Siddha Deha Diha, give me such an astonishing divine form, which is part of the Swarup of Radhika, which is spontaneously only thinking about her service at every moment. It is said that just as if there are two candles and the wind blows, what happens? Both of them tremble at the same time. So Radhika is like one flame and Krishna is like another. And the wind of separation is blowing, making them tremble. So you've probably had that experience. You're outside and you're trying to offer arti and then bring the deeps to the other devotees, right? And the wind is blowing. And then you're in anxiety to try somehow cover it. And so it won't blow out. So in the same way, all the manjaris think of is that Radhika and Krishna Radhika is in her home in Yavat, and Krishna is in Nandagan. He goes to the forest, Govardhan, Radhika is coming. But all the time when they're in separation, the wind of separation is blowing, making them both tremble. And the Sakhi's only anxiety is somehow to cover those flames, to bring them into a shelter where they won't blow out and become unconscious. So they bring them together, and that shelter is the Jai Jai Radha Krishna Jugala Milan. Their meeting, that is the happiness of their meeting is the only shelter for those flames. And just as the flames illuminate the 8 directions, without which there will only be darkness, only the light of Radha Krishna's meeting gives joy to the 8, that is the Astasakis and the Astamanjaris. 8 Manjaris. And without that, there is only darkness. They feel no happiness at all, but the happiness of Radha and Krishna. So Siddhadeya Diya Brindavanamaje Sevan Rita Karudhan. Please give me the nectar of your service. Piyaiya Prema Matakori Mori Suno Nija Gunagan. And in this way, cause me to drink prem. And when you cause me to drink prem, then I will sing in such ecstasy your glories. This is called Bhajan Chaturya. Bhajan Chaturya is, if you ask Radhika for anything, you have to ask in a very cunning way, that you don't ask anything for you. You ask, please give me this by which you will get this. The benefit is not for me, it's for you. Like Rupa Goswami has prayed, that Karnam Muhu Ate Param Tava Brindavana Chakravatini Api Keshi Ripayor Yaya Bhavetcha Sa Chatu Pratana Bhajanam Jana. Oh Radhika, if at all you want to give me a benediction, then give me this. That before Krishna can meet with you, that he has to take permission from me first. Right? When Radhika heard this, oh, this is a very good idea. So this is called Bhajan Chaturya, cunning, cleverness in bhajan, that you have to ask for something which actually gives happiness to Radha and Krishna. But it just so happens to include some benefit for us as well. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is being very clever here. Oh, if you make me mad by making me drink your prem, then you will be able to hear the glories of Sri Krishna. In the madness, I'll sing Krishna's glories. And then this will stimulate your love for him, and I'll sing your glories, and that will stimulate his love for you. So, Jugala Sevaya Sri Rasamandale Niyatkaraya Maya. Oh Radhika, now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has lost all shame. He has no inhibition at all. And openly he's saying, please engage me in your service. Where? In the Rasa Lila. In the Rasa dance. This Rasa Lila is the highest, the crest jewel of all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Actually, Radhika herself, she said to Krishna, Yat pratitam sukutakena purana eva. That, oh Krishna, I have this inspiration in my heart. I want to see you embrace millions and millions of gopis. Is it possible? Can you fulfill that desire for me? I don't know. So Bhagavana Pitara Trishadat Fulla Mallika Viksharanta Manastakre Yoga Maya Samavrita. When Krishna played his flute on the full moon night to call all the gopis for Rasa Lila, the motivation behind that was actually Radhika's desire. It was to fulfill that desire of Radhika. And all Braj gopis came. Yugala Sevaya Sri Rasa Mandale. Engage me in service. Today, we heard from Shamarani Didi, she was saying, do the Manjaris do some service in the Rasa Lila? So then Srila Gurudev said, they don't dance directly with Krishna, but they themselves play musical instruments and they dance. So the dancing of the Braj Gopis has been described very, very beautifully in Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami says, Padanyasa Bhuja Vibhuti Bir Sasmita Bru Vilasaya Madjan Bajais Chalakuta Patai Kundalai Gandalolai Sudyam Mukya Kabar Rasana Grantya Krishna Badho Gayanta Stanta Rida Ivata Mega Chakre Virejahu. When Sri Krishna was dancing with the Braja Gopis, he was like a fresh rain cloud, and each of the gopis was like a flash of lightning. And they had tied their cloths tightly around their waist because they're dancing very quickly and their cloth may slip off, so they've tightened. Yeah. And they've tightened their hair also. Their faces look beautiful, decorated with drops of perspiration, and they're singing Krishna, Krishna, the names of Krishna. And Padanyasa, Bhujabhibhutibi. Padanyasa means the way. Is there anyone here who knows how to do Adisi dance? Bharatanatyam? So they do Padanyas. This is a very delicate way of treading on the ground, placing the feet, the Padanyas, the placement of the feet according to the Tao, according to the rhythms of the Leela. Yes. In Govinda Lilamrita, Srila Krishna Kaviraj Goswami, he describes the Tao, how the gopis are doing Padanyas. He says, tai ta tai tai, ta ta tai tai, drimiki drimiki, triki 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 tat, bo patam tam. So in this way, they're placing their feet like this. And then, padanyasya bhuja vidutibi, suksmita bru vilasa. They're moving their arms very, very quickly. And they're smiling. And their eyebrows are very charming. The meaning is that when a dancer who's very expert can do isolations, that means first one part of the body is moving, and then it freezes, and then another part of the body moves, while the rest is still, and then another part of the body moves, while the rest is still, like this. So Shukadeva Goswami is describing each part. First of all, their feet are doing padanyas. Then their arms are moving. Tai ta tai tai ta tai tai tai. Drimiki drimiki triki 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 ta bo patam tam. And their arms are moving. And then susmita bru vilasa. And then they become still. And then their smile is moving. And then their mouth is moving. Tai ta tai tai ta tai tai tai. And then the eyebrows are moving. Drimiki drimiki. Triki 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 ta bo patam tam. Like each part of their body is, it's adbhut. Chamakar. So this is Yuga Sevaya Sri Rasamandale Niyakta Koro Mai. Oh, Radhika, oh Krishna, please engage me in your service, in dancing in the Rasa Leela. Lalita Sakira Ayogya Kinkari Vinodi Dorechipai. Oh, this unqualified maid servant of Lalita, so unqualified, Vinodi Dorechipai, is holding on to your lotus feet and begging for your shelter. You see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world only to give this. Anarpita charim chirata karunaya vartina akalo samarpayatum unnata ujvala rasam swabhakti sriya. He came only to give this service to the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika. This is the gift that was never given before. And it is something so rare, so astonishing. Because even Lalita and Vishakha, when Radha and Krishna meet together in their Yugala Vilas, they'll recede to the background, they'll go on to the bank of Jamuna and have a discussion there under a tree. But the maidservants of Radha and Krishna, then Pranayamaya Vayasya Kunjurandra Pitakshi Chitital Manulabda Nandamurcham Patanti Pratirata Vidadano Chestita Chitra Chitra Smaranibrita Nikunje Radhika Krishna Chandro. Srila Rupa Goswami Padi is saying that the maidservants, Pranayamaya Vayasya, their bodies are made of pranay, intimate love for Radha and Krishna. And when Radha and Krishna meet, they gather around the outside of the Kunj and they look through the Gavaksh, through the lattice windows of the Kunja Bhavan, and look inside and behold the beauty of Radha and Krishna. And at that time, Labdhananda, they attain such a bliss that Chititalamanu Labdha Murcham Patanti, they faint and fall to the ground. All the mantras are lying on the ground outside the Kunj in ecstasy. Not with the eyes closed, unconscious with eyes open. Because they're seeing the samskar of Radha Krishna's Rupa Madhuri has made such a deep impression on their heart, they have fainted with their eyes open and they're still staring at that beautiful. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has said, Radha Sagara Keli Nagara, Nimagnali Drisham Yatsukam, Dukam, Nota Lesha Lavaya Te Bhagavata Saravopi, Sokyutsava, Tatra Asa, Yadi Kasyatin Rupamam, Tatra Saubhagya Prapta Striyam, Tad Brindavananam Nidami Parameswi Yam Vapurnasyatu. It means, oh, may I die here in this dust of Vrindavan. Why? Because Vrindavan Dham may be merciful to me and fulfill my desire to become the Dasi of Radhika. Radha Nagara, that is the lover of Radhika. Keli Sagara, his loving pastimes with Radhika are like an ocean. Nimagnali Dasham Yatsukam. And when the maidservants of Radhika look at Radha Krishna and see the beauty of that ocean of sweetness, then they experience such a happiness. No talesha lavaya te bhagavata saravopi sokyutsava. The meaning is that Sri Krishna is Bhagavan. And Bhagavan has made a huge arrangement for his happiness. Right? He's manifested all the spiritual sky. He's manifested all the material universes and all the Vrindavans in them. And he appears in them with all of his associates and performs the Rasa Leela with all the gopis of Vrindavan. So Sri Krishna has made vast arrangements for his own happiness. But here Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur is saying that the ocean of happiness, which is experienced by the eyes of the maidservants of Radharani, just one drop, just all the happiness that Krishna has arranged for himself cannot be compared to just one drop of the happiness that they experience through their eyes seeing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Shall I say that one more time? Sri Krishna, who is Sachidananda Brigaha, Raso Vaisaha, has made all arrangements for his own unlimited happiness. But that all those arrangements Krishna has made for his own happiness cannot be even equal to one drop of the happiness experienced by the eyes of the Sakhis of Radhika when they behold their loving meeting in Vrindavan. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is finally saying, oh Radharani Krishna Vinoda Darechi Pai, I am holding on to your feet. Please accept me. Bless me that I may receive this very rare gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, though outwardly Srila Trivikram Maharaj, he was very, very strong. And for our kindness, he was always cutting. But then in the end of his class, then he would sink into his own internal identity and then just spread that love, that vibration of prema to everyone through this very kirtan. So we should try to follow in the footsteps of Srila Trivikram Maharaj and make this mood and this prayer our only thought, our only aspiration at every second, at every moment, and with every breath. Nityalila Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtoda Sadasishima Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj Ki Gaur Premanande Hari. I'm not the MC is there. Okay, question will be tomorrow.
I just want to pictorialize what Prem Priyojana Prabhu was talking about. Here are the Manjaris looking into the Kunja and experiencing everything that Srimati Radhika is experiencing, which is she already has 10,000 times more happiness than Krishna. Tomorrow I'll talk more about this, but this is the pictorial thing that he was talking about. And tomorrow I'll tell how the painting evolved and how the Manjaris evolved.
It's not here, it's at the Gaudiya Vedanta outreach. So you have to go there.
Good, because we have big cranes too.
Sunday morning.
Tomorrow, Sunday.
Hare Krishna. So if I can have your attention real quick. Thank you so much for everyone attending. It's so wonderful to see like God brothers I haven't seen in so long, like Giri Daya Prabhu, Subal Saka Prabhu. So very sweet. So we have a few announcements. Tonight, obviously, it's going to be important that Prasadam is in an efficient and timely fashion. What that means is we're going to roll up all of these yoga mats. We're going to have a 2-minute kirtan because you can't end a program without a kirtan. But it's going to be a quick, short kirtan. And then we're going to sit down in rows and be served prasadam. And then we will honor prasadam. We won't eat prasadam. Serve and honor. So, we have a few announcements regarding cleanup tonight. Tomorrow is a unique schedule because tomorrow morning the program begins at 8:30 with breakfast. So we canceled the drop and walk because it's going to be 38 degrees and the park doesn't open till 8 a.m. and the beach is going to be cold and windy. So we're going to skip that. Everyone do drop at home. We'll be 8:30 or sleep in. 8:30 we'll meet together at Gaudiya Vedanta Outreach. If you have any questions about that location, you need information, you see me. The address is 1710 North 40th Avenue. It is 6.5-minute drive from this location. The parking is going to be managed by Mahaprabhu Das. And we're not throwing our hands up and just saying Mahaprabhu's got this. Mahaprabhu Das is handling the parking. So when you pull up there, he'll direct you to where to go. There's place very nearby to there. So 8:30 breakfast. And then evening program is here. In between, we're going to stay on a very strict schedule tomorrow, all day, because we want to go on Harinam Sankirtan in the afternoon as a family. What that means is that our program has to be done, including the cleanup of the kitchen, at 2:30 p.m. Then we carpool together to Hollywood Beach. We do 45 minutes to 1 hour of Nagar Sankirtan. People get a little bit of a break, and then we reconvene in the evening at 5:30 p.m. And the evening program will also be a strict schedule because we have a drama tomorrow night. So very exciting. That will be at 8:15 p.m. So we're going to be hammering things tomorrow. So for now, just quick kirtan, and then we'll serve prasadam. Sorry. Yes. There's a book table in the back corner. Please, everyone, see. We have a special on the books, all for all. And then, not for you, all of the books of Gaudiya Vedanta publications and all the artwork from Srimati Shamari Didi is any number of books for any donation. And you have an announcement about Prabhu's books.
Hare Krishna! Just one more quick announcement and then you can talk all you want, but just please hear this. So anyone who's going to North Carolina or wants to go to North Carolina, but they don't have a place to stay and they don't have a ride, we're going to have a meeting. So please come and see me after this time, after Prasad, and please come and see me and we can help arrange that, okay? So anybody who's inspired to come to the Nam Tattva program with Prabhu, come and see me. And anybody who wants his books, please come and see. Where'd she go? Carrie! Please come and see Carrie. The books are separate. His books are expensive to print, and so we do have to actually ask for a donation for them. So just let us know.
We're gonna wait, get that kirtan.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana
Gaura Hari. Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Sachi Mata Prana Dana Gaura Hari. Vishnu Priya Prana Dana Gaura Hari. Vishnu Priya Prana Dana Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari Jaya Gaura Bihari Gaura Hare Sankirtan Bihari Gaura Hare Gaura 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 Hare Gaura 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 Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Yashoda Nandana Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rashi Shekara Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rashi Shekara Krishna 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 Hare Hare Radhika Ramana Rama 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 Hare Hare Radhika Ramana Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol 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 Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol Jai Jai Radha Jai Jai Radha Radhe Jai Jai Radha Jai Jai Radha Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol 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 Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Oh Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Bihari, Radha Ras Bihari Radhe. Jaya Radha Ras Bihari, Radha Ras Bihari Radhe. Jaya Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana Radhe. Jaya Radha Ramana, Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Oh Jaya Radha Gopinatha Radha Gopinatha Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopinatha Radha Gopinatha Radhe. Jaya Radha Vino Bihari Radha Vino Bihari 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 Radhe. Radhe 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 Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Radhe 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 Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Oh Radhe 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 Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Oh Radhe 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 Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Radhe 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 Jai Jai Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Nitya Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Nitya Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Bhavan Goswami Maharaj Ki Nitya Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Sritam Goswami Maharaj Ki Nitya Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhakti Daiti Mahatma Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Vishnu Vishnu Pada Saraswati Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sri Goswami Maharaj Ki Nitya Lila Pravishta Vishnupad Asatara Sattasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Nitya Lila Pravishta Paramhansa Babaji Gaur Kishoras Babaji Maharaj Ki Nitya Lila Pravishta Saptam Goswami Sachidananda Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Nitya Lila
Lila Pravishta Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Rup Sri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Sri Rupa Damodar Raghunath Gaur Parishar Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Sri Hosri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadara Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gopa Vedanta Saranam Kham Shri Brajananda Ladama Ki Sri Radha Kundi Shama Kundi Jamuna Ganga Tulasi Bhakti Devi Ki Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudhisham Chakravarti Ki Sri Purusham Shatra Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Dara Vikna Vinasa Singha Varavana Ki Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Chala Sampradaya Acharya Ki Chalo Dham Ki Akarnath Sri Chaitanya Mata Ki Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Outreach in Fort Lauderdale Ki Hollywood, in Hollywood too. Sri Harinam Prabhu Ki Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaur Premanande Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. I'm so happy that you're all attending the program. I humbly request you that anyone, out of the kindness of their heart, could make a small donation or a large donation from 5 to 500, whatever you have available. Please step forward and see Ms. Prabhu and make a donation. We put on this whole festival based on the faith that Krishna will take care through the Vaishnavas. So please help us. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
So we need to sit down in rows, back to back.